My family has a background of engineering and innovation. My grandfather was a scientist with Bell Laboratories back in the 40s and 50s. He then went on to he was the head of research for Texas Instruments, who was the first to market with the silicon transistor, which is what's in all modern day electronics. So he was just inducted into the Inventors Hall of Fame 3 years ago, so which is really cool. I think why it's important to invent for me personally is, it's just something I'm very passionate about. I've always been passionate about solving problems and, trying to figure out new ways of looking at things. And I think that leads to invention. I don't think I ever set out to invent stuff. I think I just get very interested in solving problems down at a detailed level, and out of that comes invention.
Invention is as old as human existence. People have a unique capacity to envision that which does not yet exist, to drive invention and innovation and push civilization forward.
The steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available.
From the printing press to the space shuttle, we never stop dreaming up new ideas that make the world a better place, improve our quality of life, and drive the world's economies.
There are entrepreneurs with faith in themselves and faith in an idea who create new jobs, new wealth, and opportunity.
Over time, these ideas and inventions have become known as intellectual property, or IP. In the United States, anyone with a unique idea can apply to have their creation, their IP, protected by the full authority of the United States government. Since its founding, this system of protection has been a principal driver of our country's economic growth and job creation. It is a fundamental element of the American dream. But is that dream at risk?
There are impatient, passionate innovators out there that want to improve healthcare and want to improve transportation and want to figure out ways to cure our environmental problems and our energy problems. But all of them are working hard at something for which there has to be an incentive, there has to be a gold ring if they succeed, there has to be some reward.
Intellectual property is crucially important for any small inventor or a startup. In some cases, it's all that we have.
Startups typically are not going to be turning something around within a year. It usually takes some period of time before this idea is refined. And during this entire time, of course, the company needs to be funded, it needs to attract talent, retain talent, and so forth.
And you can't actually become profitable unless you can protect your invention, because the big guys are going to come in, and if you make a brilliant invention that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars in new market value, then that's going to get copied for sure. And the only thing that protects you from getting pushed out of business because you're the little guy is your patents.
So, how does it all work? Well, it all starts with an idea, your idea. You wake up in the middle of the night with a brilliant new invention and realize, this is valuable, I could build and sell this. But then it occurs to you, how do I keep someone else from stealing my idea for their own business? That's where patents come in. The patent declares to the world, I thought of this first. This idea belongs to me for a limited time. You get a patent application from the United States Patent and Trademark Office, the USPTO, describe your brilliant invention, and submit it for approval. Experts at the USPTO review your idea to make sure someone else didn't patent it first. If your idea is in fact non-obvious, you are awarded a US patent. Time to celebrate. The world is your oyster. You can now safely bring your idea to the masses, sell your product, and create jobs in the process. Or, you can take this patent to investors, knowing they'll be confident in your ability to protect your idea from competitors. You can license or sell the patent to other companies that want to use it in their own products. Whatever you choose, you're now able to present your idea to the world, confident that it's yours and yours alone.
Our lavish ElliptiGO world headquarters. Named the world headquarters because at one point we had the shed quarters, which was a shed that I worked out of in Northern California. Britt and I started this company. We were 500 miles apart and we stayed that way for 6 years, the first 6 years of the company. This is the grand showroom, and then we have our old prototypes hanging up on the wall. This is Alpha, the first one we ever built. Brent built that in his side yard and it flat out worked. First time I got on it, I went 20 miles, I hit 20 miles an hour. People were hooting and hollering, it was crazy. This is my corner office with a view. I used to have a chair, but I no longer have one. As you can see, we invest a ton of money into our infrastructure. Our heating and cooling, which you notice is non-existent. And I think it's just, the Spartan existence of a startup.
The ElliptiGO's the world's first elliptical bicycle. This category of device is in between two major industries, in between the indoor fitness equipment industry who makes indoor ellipticals and the cycling industry. And no one ventured into that void until we did, really. But if we couldn't obtain some IP around it, it wasn't going to be something that was worth it for either of us to pursue.
So the first thing we did out of the gate was really focus on understanding what sort of intellectual property already existed. I think we wanted to make sure that if we were going to take this thing to market, that we'd have the opportunity to derive value from it and not have it be taken either through knockoffs or someone else who already actually owned the intellectual property.
And then in parallel with that was, getting a first proof of concept together as quickly as we could, aside from just understanding what IP was out there, because even if there was IP out there, was this thing worth even pursuing because of, was it fun? Did it work? Was it viable? Why isn't this thing out here? And what we were finding was we couldn't get anyone to bite on IP until this market had been proven, and that was going to come down to us doing it.
We put out a report called Industries in Focus, and it was the first report ever anywhere in the world that actually accumulated the number of American jobs associated with IP-intensive industries. And the numbers are staggering. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 million American jobs, huge numbers of jobs. They're also durable jobs, meaning they tend to be sticky, they tend to be around for a while, they don't just come and go, they're high-paying jobs, so they're exactly the kinds of jobs we want in our country.
It would be outrageous to dupe our political leaders into being distracted by this noise of these people that are abusing the patent system and conflate the issue of these noisy opportunists with the idea that the way to deal with them is to undermine the patent system.
I see a lot of bad things pass in Congress, and usually the worst stuff happens the quickest. They don't want to give you time to react. They don't want to give you time to go back to your constituents and talk to your, for instance, in this case, universities and your inventors, because they're afraid that you will find out that really your constituents don't support this legislation.
There is substantial concern that we have gone too far already in the, quote, correction of the patent system. So what we have today is really a small minority of corporations that are really pushing this further changes to the patent bill.
I think that because they got some progress 2 years ago, some companies who don't value intellectual property think that the iron is hot and the time to strike is now.
Knowing that big business is funding legislation writing, by the way, is not a news flash. And in every case, the guy that gets it in the teeth is the little guy. And you want to think that your elected representatives are alert to that and hopefully scrutinizing it.
The way Congress is approaching this problem is dangerous. They're not going in and trying to improve the patent process. They're trying to tweak the judicial system, the way that patents are litigated. And in doing so, they're going to affect the value of every patent in the United States. Because what they're going to do is they're going to make it harder for the little guy to assert his patent claims when the big guy steals his idea.
Startup investment is where patents really matter. We simply couldn't get our companies funded without strong patents.
If we can't patent what we do, we can't own the invention. And if you can't own the invention, you cannot justify the investment.
If you can't have confidence that the innovation that you're spending millions and billions of dollars on is going to pay off over a period of time, you don't spend the money, period.
Throughout that year when Brent was developing the proof of concept, I was periodically doing more and more searches just to keep searching and making sure nothing was out there. And sure enough, I found this patent. Turned out it was written by the guy who invented the elliptical trainer. So we made a decision to call and just lay it on the line, and either we were going to get a license to that, we were going to get an exclusive license to his patent, or we were going to quit. And we cold call him, and he picks up the phone, and in 20 minutes we basically hammered out the broad terms of what that license agreement was going to look like. That was one of the best days in this project, was when we signed that deal. That one piece of intellectual property was so valuable in our investor pitches, and so credible because of who the inventor was and what he'd done previously on the indoor space. We didn't just hold a patent, we held a patent with the claim structure that had been litigated by multi-million-dollar companies that probably ended up paying $100 million settlement to a different company. Was something that our investors could really get their heads around and see that not only could this be a big industry, but if it gets there, the big guys might not be able to push Britt and Brian around as much as they otherwise would. That there was a real hope from the investor side that this could be a lucrative enough investment that it was worth the huge risk that the investor takes to back the company.
So we took our initial filing, and now have 6, 7 issued utility patents in the US off of that initial filing, and a couple design patents. So now we have a very substantial patent portfolio, which we didn't just stop there. We said, hey, we've really thought about how to design and implement these products. We're going to bring them to market. We've even gone further from having this keystone patent is to protecting all these little nuances, which just further strengthen our position. And I think that's what gave us the confidence to charge on and really take on this daunting challenge for two guys to, form a company and bring a product to market. And I think there's no way we would have done that if we hadn't gotten that IP position squared away first. And that then allowed us to, launch a production product in 2010 and grow this company to 17 employees now. We have 10,000 bikes out in the world. So it's, it's been great.
Anything you do to undermine the speed at which you can get a patent, the quality of the patent, the certainty of the patent, will help big incumbents not have to worry about being toppled by great new ideas. And the public will lose because you won't see a lot of great new ideas.
What's going to happen is the US's opportunity to have high-value jobs, high-value products, is going to dissipate. You're going to see cheap knockoffs throughout the world. You're also going to see that the creative people that not only are in the United States, but are drawn to the United States, that go and bring in these ideas here, are just no longer going to see America as the place to do these things.
So I think the message that the United States sends when it reduces the protection afforded intellectual property rights is we send a message to the rest of the world that they don't need to adopt rules. And it used to be, in my view, what the United States was doing when we were negotiating with our trading partners is we were telling them, copy our laws, not our products. And now I think that we are in danger of sending the opposite message, and therefore will not be successful in getting countries to adopt strong protection for intellectual property rights.
There's about 9 different factories that are claiming to sell ElliptiGOs now, and they're all in the same region of China. And they've combined have 400 ads listed on the largest marketplace in the world. It's a Chinese internet site that is larger than eBay and Amazon combined. I actually thought this was funny. So this is Erin, she sits in the front. So her likeness and image that she did not sign a release for, I'll tell you that, is now being used by her favorite company, Wui Hongyi Crafts Limited. They're in China. We can contact them. That would be funny. Should we call her?
Give her a call. Let's try it. We're on speakerphone. Narrate what's happening.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah.
Do you speak English?
Yes.
Great. Is this Wu Yi Hong Yi Crafts Company?
Yeah. This is Michael.
Michael, I saw on Alibaba a very interesting listing called China Mountain Bike ElliptiGO.
Yeah.
So do you manufacture, is ElliptiGO a Chinese company? Do you manufacture for them?
Yes, manufacturer.
Okay. So I didn't know that they were Chinese companies.
Okay, I will send the details, and I have many customers from the United States. I can, so if you have interest in, we can
Okay.
make a long collaboration.
Great. So, I mean, your prices are great. So I will text you or SMS my email and look forward to a quote.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. That's super interesting. I didn't realize we were a Chinese company.
Unbelievable.
It's one thing to go after these guys in China, right? It's another thing to have recourse with them once the products get to the US. This is going to be whack-a-mole if we go after them in China. It's like this guy pops up, this guy pops up, this guy pops up. So really our defense here is to stop them at the shore, to not let them get the product into the country. And that's really the only way to do it. Because once they're in the country and people start buying them, you're not going to go sue Sally down the street because you see her riding by on one of these fake things. We're not going to go run her down and be like, all right, you need to give me treble damages for the purchase of that wacky thing you bought that you didn't know was knocked off, right? It has to stop at the border or with the retailer. And really the only way to do that is through patents. But at the end of the day, 2 years from now, when these guys are through the fishing phase and into production and now shipping to the US, it's going to be patents. Because if it's not patents, they're just going to name it something different, and then it's going into Target, and then it's coming on the street. If we were no longer able to enforce our patents, I'd be pretty upset, personally. I'd feel like the rug got pulled out from under me. We're a very small company, and we've invested probably $500,000 in intellectual property. And we did that because that's a deal with the federal government of the United States. It said to us, look, if you tell us what you've invented, we'll give you a monopoly on making, using, or selling that thing in this country. We, the federal government, will ensure that you're the only person that gets to determine how that invention is made, used, or sold here. That was the deal when we paid our money to the federal government. That was the deal when Miller paid his money to the federal government. And that was the deal when he got his patent issued, and that was the deal when we got our patents issued. That was the deal when all these people got hired. That's the deal today. If that's not the deal 2 years from now, when Trek, Giant, Specialized, you name it, is making knockoff ElliptiGOs, then that's a violation of contract in my mind. I mean, really, that is unbelievably unfair. You can't change the game when that much is invested in it.
100 years from now, everyone in this room, everyone around us is not going to be here. So we should do the right thing. And with that perspective, make good decisions. Make the decision that you need this innovation ecosystem to continue long after we're gone.
With startups, if your technology you've developed is reliant on patents and you can't assert them, if you can't enforce them, you're gone. It's like that. It's not a question of a degree of market success. It's a question of, do you exist or do you not?
a thinly veiled attempt to undermine the core of the patent system by a few large organizations that just as soon not have to deal with the potentially disruptive new inventions of the future, to me, is misguided at the least. It's outrageous. And if they succeed, the unintended consequence of further adding uncertainty and cost to getting and maintaining patents will be, I believe, the largest single cause of the decline of innovation and therefore the economy in this country that I've seen in my lifetime.